to USA Biz Party. This is the chat after the chat. This is the party after the party. I am so glad that you're joining. And somehow I think I'm getting some feedback here. So what am I doing? It is, I'm not sure if I'm getting feedback. So if you're on live, let me know. Say something to me. We can see your comments. So please make a comment. If you're on the replay, say replay, put it in the chat. We'll be happy to respond back later. I am super excited for the guests that we have. We've taken a couple of weeks break. We're going to be just going every other week for a season for a while for the summer, and then we'll pick right back up with our schedule around the 1st of September. But I'm very excited. Hello, Alex. So glad that you could join us today. But we have today with us video strategist all the way from another country, Canada, Sheryl Plouffe. Sheryl, welcome to, let's get you on board here. Welcome to USA Biz Party.
Thanks so much, Anna. Great to be here. I hope the feedback's not coming from my end.
Well, you know what? I think it's going away, so I think we're good.
Okay. I've got the headphones handy.
Okay, perfect. I think we're good.
Good. Nice to see you. That was a lot of fun. That Twitter chat was a blast.
We have amazing people in the chat. We have a core group that comes in every single week. And then we also have people that kind of filter in. So it was really kind of fun. My daughter and I were visiting my other daughter in New York City. We ended up parking in a parking garage. When we got out from under the garage and stood out, we were in front of Fordham University. Fordham State University. It's a Jesuit college or something like that. And it turns out that we were standing in front of the business school, the Garibaldi Business School, where there is an instructor in the school who encourages her postgraduate students to engage in business chats. So we've had quite a few people join us from the Garibaldi Business School at Fordham University. It was just really fun to step out and go, oh, wow. If only I could have set it up so this lady, I could have met her to thank her in person.
Oh, that's so neat. Well, I have to admit, this was the first time I'd done a Twitter chat after all these years. My thing has been, so much the video side of things, and that's obviously what we're going to be talking about today. So it was actually a really great experience for me too. So thank you so much for facilitating that.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you joined. And we have some things we're going to discuss, but I was hoping you would share a little bit of your background so that people understand that you're, that the depth and the breadth of experience and why you're even working with businesses in this particular field.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. I am a video strategist. And what that really means is that I strategically help businesses to grow using video. So my background professionally was as a TV broadcaster for 25 years, and 17 of those I spent on the national stage. So I've done over 20,000 hours of live TV broadcasting. I've managed a news department of 17 people, so bureaus and photojournalists and digital writers. I've done a few commercials. I've done voiceover work, a bit of radio, you name it, in the media industry. So what I do is I take the best practices from that industry and bring it into the entrepreneurial space. So I work mostly with coaches, consultants, speakers, authors, people who are building a personal brand, packaging up their own intellectual property into courses, masterminds, memberships, programs, and they need to sell more of their products and services to make the impact that they're meant to make in this world. And so what I do is help them with the video. I'm really all about helping people be positioned as authorities so that they can grow their business. And that's what I have found to be true in the broadcasting field and what I do today, Anna. So that in short is really what I'm all about, is how do I help people through video and digital and content marketing, which is all a subset of that, to be positioned as authorities so that they can grow their business.
And that is so key, because so many times it used to be that everyone would say, well, I just want to grow my business by word of mouth. Everybody knows me. And while that can be a reasonable strategy, if your business goals are to grow And to be able to get to a point where you can scale, you really do have to have a video presence of sorts. People want to get to know you, and video is a perfect way for people to do that, whether they're doing it for marketing purposes, whether they're doing it to create content for a membership site, or any of the other things, even just a get to know you kind of thing.
It's really, Anna, I think we have to market for the year we live in. And this is what I think a lot of people who are used to doing things a certain way and have been doing it that way for a very long time, it's difficult to change. But the fact is that the world has changed. And listen, I'm a big Prince fan, you know, Prince, the rock star who wore the little boots and everything. And so I like to say that we should, you know, certainly party like it's 1999, but we ought not to market like it's 1999. Like it's time to market for the year that we live in. And then a lot of people are hesitant to do that because they don't want to change, despite the fact that the world has. Today, you need a digital presence, no doubt. And you also need media. My belief is that business owners would benefit from thinking of themselves as mini media companies. We're at that stage. You have to create content.
You do. I think, if anything, COVID taught us that. COVID, especially as we ended up having to be isolated from one another, video became so very valuable. Now, one of the things that came up in the chat, so we had a lot of great comments, a lot of good interaction, but one of the things that came up that I'd like to really dive a little deeper on is perfectionism, because it stops so many people from really stepping out and doing anything productive, because we're not in the age of you have to be on ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox News. You have to be, it's so much simpler, but there's usually this stopping block, this obstacle called perfectionism. How can somebody recognize it, number one? And number two, how do they get out of that trap?
Thing one is recognizing it's quite simple. I think if you're not seeing progress, if you're not reaching your business goals, potentially it's because you're letting too much perfectionism. There's an irony right there. Perfectionism creep into your business. And that can be not just in the content creation field or in that section of your business. It could be really in any function of your business. If you're not reaching the goals that you have set out for yourself, take a look at that. Are you overthinking things? Are you waiting for things to be perfect before you ship it, as Seth Godin says, right? Like you have to ship it. My husband has a saying where he says, and he was a longtime TV broadcaster and award-winning journalist himself. And he has a saying where he says, like, make it good, then make it great. And that's especially true for those of us who worked in broadcasting, who worked under deadlines. And anyone who's worked under a deadline, you have to make it, it has to be good. Like, make it good. You got to get it out there. And then you can come back and you can start to tweak and fiddle, not to perfection, but just to make it better. So I think that perfectionism, how do we recognize it? If we're not seeing progress, there could be some perfectionism creeping into any aspect of your business. The second part of the question is, how do we get rid of it? I think that as it pertains to content, especially video, which is the world I live in, you're likely making too much of this about your own self, too much vanity kind of playing into this, too much me. If you're a service-based entrepreneur, a coach, or a consultant whose job it really is to provide your products and services to the benefit of others and to help them reach their goals, make it about them. Take the pressure off of yourself and alleviate that weight that's on you to reach some level of perfectionism. For women especially, it has a lot to do with the superficiality of how we look, right? How we dress, how we look. Listen, I like makeup. I like to some days do my hair. Maybe I didn't do it so well today, but I don't let that stop me. Today is day 2. I did not wash my hair this morning. Okay. So, but I'm not letting that stop me from being part of your Twitter chat, from being on this live stream today, because I don't think about it from the perspective of me. I think about it as, who could I impact today? Who needs to hear this message? And that's more important than my vanity in this case. I think you're muted.
Isn't that? There we go.
No, that's okay.
It's
So
not
does that make
perfect.
sense? It's really about like don't make
Yeah.
it about yourself, make it about other people.
Mhm.
It's a huge weight that's lifted off of your shoulders. Now, listen, I do believe that entrepreneurs need to be thinking of themselves as mini media companies and really be the broadcaster of your own enterprise, of your own business or nonprofit or whatever it is that you're building. But you
Mhm.
don't have to be like I was for 25 years, where we really were kind of held to a very, very high standard of looks, like how it looked and what we were wearing, and it had to be approved, and you couldn't change your hair without getting, approval and like all that kind of thing.
Wow.
But that was a different thing. Broadcasting is a very different industry, and it was different back then. Today, we all have the ability to really make those choices for ourselves because we're in charge. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's beautiful about that.
Yeah, and it's really funny that we were talking about in the chat. A lot of times, folks, when they're first starting it seems very awkward and stilted, and you're kind of like, and you maybe don't want to even see your video, but that's part of the process of getting through it. The first few videos, you might even publish them, look back and go, I can't believe I did that.
I think you should. I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy to do those videos and maybe cringe a little bit when you go back a year later and watch them. Listen, no one is going to go out there and do their very first video ever and have it be at this level. It
Mhm.
doesn't happen. Well,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to do the video despite the fact that it won't be at this level when you start, that it might be down here, and you got to be okay with that. So you have to be willing to put yourself out there. That's what a lot of people don't want to do.
Oh, that is really true. Now, getting back to making it about the audience, you have like a 4P system that can really help people get through a process to where they can actually start producing video and feel better about it than just winging it. I mean, a lot of times people think that we have to be stand-up comedians to be right.
Yeah.
I know for a fact, and I'm sure you know this, Jerry Seinfeld, when he tries out a new joke, he tries it out hundreds of times. I mean, he doesn't just stand up there and start popping off. He's worked at this. And then we become afraid, well, we have to do that. Well, we don't have to be Jerry Seinfeld. And nor do we have to be, a nighttime TV show host. But what we do have to be is prepared. And I love your 4P system to help us prepare. Can you share that with us?
Sure, sure. Well, speaking about Jerry Seinfeld or any comedian, who is building a show, they test it out in small clubs on smaller audiences to really fine tune their messaging. And I think that's a lesson we can all learn. So Anna, the 4P framework is something that I've developed. It's a really original name, isn't it? 4P framework. I don't get all caught up in all the marketing lingo and language. Let's just keep it simple. It's 4Ps, and it's really easy to remember. It's to plan, produce, publish, and promote. And that is the foundation of building a video strategy. And that's where I always believe that we need to start, is from a video strategy first perspective. Have a strategy. And that's what I do. So if we were to break that down into those 4Ps, right? When you finish the whole strategy, you will have a roadmap for the planning, the producing, the publishing, and the promoting, and essentially creating the videos that are going to then grow your business. But let's start with phase one. In the planning phase, which is probably the most crucial phase, because you really need to get this right in order for the rest of the process to make sense. So when you're in the planning phase, this includes things like figuring out the goals. What is the point? What is it we're trying to achieve? Is this a thought leadership strategy? Is this a brand awareness strategy? Is this a sales strategy? In most cases, it's going to start with brand awareness. But you have to look at your goals. You have to also really analyze, and I'm simplifying it here. Sometimes it can take a while to even figure out what the goals truly are. The second part is story and message. This is really key. This can sometimes take a while to uncover that. I was working with a client recently where we worked on this. And where we started from, or what she thought her story was, what she thought her message was very different in the early stages of our working together to the end. And it's because it's a process that you have to go through to really think about your story, about your message. You also have to really understand the audience. This is also crucial. If you go out and you start making videos and you're just kind of doing it willy-nilly, just kind of without any clear indication of who it is that you're trying to attract, it might not, it will maybe have a bit of traction, but it won't really work as well as it could. So I think in the planning phase, it's really key to get these fundamentals down from a strategic perspective first, before we ever turn on a camera, before we ever start going live. Understand those fundamentals and a few others. I don't want to belabor the point here, but that you have to really understand that. It's a strategy first perspective. Then you start getting into the producing, and that's a whole other section, the publishing and the promotion of the videos.
Well, here's a question, and I'm sure that, so first of all, if you're watching live, thank you so much. Please feel free to ask questions. Put them in the comments. They'll follow through here. And Sheryl, I know she's excited to help you and answer your questions. If you're on the replay, put your questions anyway. We'll make sure Sheryl gets them, and she'll reach out to you and answer your questions if it's not already answered. So one of the questions that comes to mind as you're talking about the planning, because this can seem like such a long process.
I know.
And it can seem like I don't have time for it. Why can't I just why can't I just put my little thing up and just do something? So where do we find a balance? Again, not trying to be a perfectionist, but on the other hand, having a good plan, strategically speaking, without having to sacrifice too much time, or maybe we do. That's what you're here for, to help us with.
Yeah, it's a great point, because while at the same time, you want to have a strategy and you want to have something to kind of go out there with, you don't want to get stuck in perfectionism land where it takes you 9 months of overthinking and not getting any action taken. So I think that the benefit of working with someone else rather than working in a silo and working in isolation is beneficial. When we talk about like the benefit of having a coach or the benefit of having accountability, is because then you have someone else who can gently and, come in and say, hey, Susie, okay, we need to make a decision and we have to kind of go with it now. And I did that recently with a client. I had someone who I was working with, and we worked. We got to a point, and it was like, then I could tell as the coach, as the consultant, that there was a point where she was like trying to change just for the sake of change, because maybe she was trying to avoid something that she was scared of and didn't want to do. That's the role of the coach, to recognize when that point is happening and to step in and say, it's actually good enough. Because when content creation, my belief is that the clarity comes from doing it. You definitely want to have some idea of what you're doing when you're first starting, but not to the point where it's stopping you from ever going out there and taking action. So there is that fine line that we have to pass, that we have to cross. I think that's the role of an outside, coach or consultant in this case, to step in gently and say, it's time. It's time to start going live. It's time to start making the videos. The clarity that you're seeking right now and trying to reach that perfectionism thing, that's going to come in time. It's going to become more clear from doing it. But right now, this is good enough, and we're going to get started.
Oh, that's a good point. And I love how you brought in that it's really important to have somebody from the outside looking in. There's an invigorating thing. I'm currently working in my housing business with a consultant, an independent contractor, who is helping me. And from the outside, she's able to point out, okay, I see where you're struggling, but really your focus is here, but really we need to be looking at this piece here. When we get this one lined up, this is going to start to work itself out. And so if somebody wanted to work with you, Sheryl, what is the best way for them to get in contact? I know you have some free consults that you offer.
Yep. Yeah. No, if you go to my website at SherylPlouffe.com, you will see there's a whole host of resources I recommend. It's all in there. And you can download. I have free downloads and different things. And you can always just send me an email, right? Send me an email at Sheryl Plouffe at Sheryl@SherylPlouffe.com is my business email. Send it there. I'd be happy to, talk about, what's going on for you, maybe even get on a quick call with you and just sort of do some initial analysis and figure out if indeed what I do is supportive of what the goals that you have. Happy to do that, of course, but there's lots of different ways. You can go to my website. There's a contact form there. You can email me. You can send me a message on any number of platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. You can send me a message and just say, hey, I heard you on with Anna, or I was on the chat, and would love to know more about what you do, and I'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would be, if somebody was, they're thinking, yeah, I think I'd like to start thinking about this. What would be the very first thing they should start to do, besides contact you, of course, to get started on a strong video strategy?
Well, I think that it's going to certainly, one of the first questions I am going to ask in a call is going to be, who is it that you want to attract? And for some people think they know, but then when they really start to think about it, they go, actually, maybe I really don't know exactly. So that's where I would start. Start with, who is it that you're looking to attract? Because that is one of the key fundamental questions that will need to be answered in order to move forward with any kind of strategy. And then we can start, certainly I'm going to ask questions about, do you have a team? Are you working solo? Do you have gear and equipment yet or no? Okay, great. All these types of questions come into play in order to start moving down that 4P framework into the next phases. But it's a whole process. But it's a process worth doing, because if you don't have the strategy kind of laid out, and you don't have the roadmap, what happens is people just they start mimicking other people. They start imitating others. They start trying to be someone they're not. They start doing videos without any kind of strategy at all. And it just becomes a dog's breakfast of video. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, it's important, because video is very powerful. It can help you build your personal brand. It can help you with marketing, right? It has to do with content creation. There's just so much that you can do with it, but it starts at a strategic level.
Well, Sheryl, thank you so much for joining us today on USA Biz Party. I know people in the chat got a lot, and I thoroughly enjoyed our interview today.
Thank you.
Again, if you want to connect with Sheryl, go to her website, Sheryl Plouffe. Is that right?
Yeah, you're doing great. Yeah.
.com. You can see it's probably not the way you would think to spell it, so make sure you copy that down. Plouffe.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know for sure I'm going to do that. So thank you so much, Sheryl.
Thank you, Anna.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Now, for those of you that are still with me, thank you so much for being with me. Please, please, please like and share this video for us. Let people know what we're doing. If you want to join our mailing list, then go ahead, direct message me at Shelleriana on Twitter. I'll make sure you get on the list so that you get the notifications when we're going to be broadcasting. Also, who's going to be our next guest. Thank you so much for joining, and make it a great week.